Hey guys, Aniket here. Today we're going to create a public meetings AI agent, which is going to allow you to enter in a YouTube URL and get back 5 articles written based on that public meeting. So the use case here is if you own a local newspaper or a local newsletter and want to create a set of articles based on a local meeting rather than having a journalist or yourself actually go to this public meeting, like a city council meeting, and sit through the meeting, take notes, and then write articles. You can have this agent which just does it all for you. So I think this is going to be very exciting to those of you in the local media space, and I'm going to be coding it all just from scratch right here today. So let me describe the process first. First, we're going to grab YouTube videos. There we go, using a tool called YTDLP. So YTDLP is a command line tool which allows you to download videos from pretty much any source. So obviously, YT is YouTube, but also tons of other sources. Better results. Then we'll have the LLM write the headlines for each of those important points and then write an article corresponding to each headline. Let me show you where I was at. So this interface here that I'm using is called TMUX, which stands for Terminal Multiplexer, and it's the environment in which I like to write automations, code. I'm very efficient in it, and the tool which I'm going to be using is Claude Code. So some of you may be familiar with tools like N8N, Make, Zapier. These are low-code tools, and I prefer doing everything in code. That's what I'm going to show you today. You can get much better results and work much faster if you know a little bit about coding. And so, unfortunately, that recording had gotten stopped, so let me go and sort of show you what I gave as a prompt. So right here is the initial prompt that I gave. Let me read through it. I want you to create documentation for a Python command line tool using Click. The purpose is to create articles from YouTube videos of city council meetings. I want everything to be done in a virtual environment using UV as the virtual environment manager. So sideline, a virtual environment is a sort of isolated setting with all the dependencies and the Python version that you want to use. And so it's a good practice to be able to have multiple projects on the same computer and also allow other people to be able to implement a certain tool or use a certain tool. The first step would be to get a YouTube video using YTDLP, which we should have installed in the virtual environment. And one thing, for any packages we use, you should make sure that we are getting the most recent version of the package. The second step then will be to get the transcript of the video using OpenAI Whisper. We should use python.env, the Python package, to read in the OpenAI API key from a .env with the root of the directory. Next, pass it to OpenAI's GP model to identify the important points of interest for a local community in the meeting transcript. I give it some documentation from OpenAI on like how to structure outputs. All right, that fire truck passed by. The next step will be to have the tool then create headlines, and finally articles should be output as markdown files in some output directory. And then finally I have some instructions here which are just useful instructions that I like to give coding agents to sort of structure out the documentation they make. So one thing just to clarify is that I'm asking the tool to create documentation right now and not actually create the tool. And so then it went through and started working on the documentation. And one of the feedback steps I had said is right here. After creating the first round of documentation, let me know if there are areas where you need more clarity in order to feel confident that I would be satisfied with the results. This is something I always like doing because it means that the tool sort of pushes back and asks me for clarifying questions with which we can get better results. And so the clarifying questions it asked were these. It asked about article length and style right here. it asked about GPT-5 model availability. So Claude Code doesn't know that GPT-5 exists. You have to kind of explicitly instruct it that it does exist. It asks about how to organize the output, any cost and performance limits. So I just told it no for cost and performance limits, and I told it just number the articles that it creates. For error handling, how should it handle errors? I told it to just deal with partial failures and continue. Additional features, speaker identification or attribution for quotes. I know this is something that the Whisper model can't really do right now, so I told it not to worry about that. And in terms of sample city council meetings, I told it I'll provide some and just kind of iterate as we go along. And so we've got some documentation written. Let me just walk you through the documentation right now before we get started. So we're going to create a Python command line tool that automatically generates news articles from YouTube videos of city council meetings using AI. This is the general process. Download the YouTube videos, transcribe it using OpenAI Whisper, using the Whisper 1 model, so it got that right. Analyze transcripts with GPT-5, generate headlines and article content, one article, outputting formatted articles as markdown files. And so it basically looks good to me. So here are the tasks that it's created, and the first one is environment setup. And the one thing I notice is that some of these packages that it's specified are a little bit old, and so I'm going to ask it to update those packages for sure. In fact, it had already started doing that. The stream had cut out accidentally, so I'd already gone through the tasks and given it that instruction. Let me ask it to continue with that. And the rest is all just how it imagines structuring the different modules. But now you can see it's looking for the most recent version of packages. Let me just walk you through the rest of the tasks, and then we'll get started. So create the structure, create the configuration module, create the video downloader module, the transcription module, the content analysis module, article generator module, command line interface implementation, integration and pipeline, and testing. So that's basically the steps. And then let me make sure that the tracking.md is sort of coherent with that. Looks generally coherent. Keep going. What else is in here? Technical design. What is that? So it's just specifying how these different modules are each like separated out. And so, yeah, that seems good and exactly what I want. Okay, let's just let's see if we can get it to work. I want you to get started on the tasks through the video downloader module. As you proceed, I want you to update the tracking.md. I'll test the command line tool myself. You should be making the command line interface as you go along. Actually, is it clear from the tasks and tracking that you've set up that you should be creating the command line interface as you go along so that it can be tested as we build out one module at a time? Or are you setting it up so that you wanted it all created all at the end? I want to be able to test it as we go along. Okay, so that's a little thing that I caught. It wasn't really set up to allow me to test it as we go along. And so this will be much nicer. Nice. So we've got some restructuring of tasks, and it specifies that the command line interface should be created and expanded at each stage, which is what we want to be able to test it, stage by stage. So one little thing to point out is that over here you can see this thing that says context left until auto compact 17%. So Claude Code itself has a context limit of the maximum length that a conversation can reach before you need to sort of start from scratch or summarize the previous conversation and then start from scratch. So we're going to reach that point pretty soon. All right, let's take a look at these tasks now that have been rewritten. Task 1, environment setup, and it's got these much newer versions, as you can see, YTDLP from 2025-08-27. So I think what I'm going to have it do is just go through the first 4 tasks. So we'll be able to download a city council video right away. So let's do that. I want you to go through tasks 1 through 4. And as you go through them, I want you to update the tracking.md. And after you've completed task 4, I want you to tell me how to test whether it works and what sort of outputs would indicate that it's working correctly. All right, so while we're doing that, while it's sort of doing its thing, I'm going to go through YouTube and look for some videos which we can use as tests. Evanston. All right, that actually looks good. 34 minutes. Okay. Yeah, let's use some of these. They split them out. It'll make our lives a little bit easier. So human service. That. I mean, even these 2-hour ones, I'm sure we could deal with them. Let's take a couple of those. So we're going to use these as our experimental, city council meetings. Just see what it looks like.
And we've submitted
this item. Councilmember Hadicus.
In favor of allowing them to take this trip.
But we found from our...
All right, this looks like exactly the kind of boring, sort of geriatric, annoying stuff that you would want AI to be listening to, because who the hell would want to sit through this god-awful meeting? Okay, let's wait for this thing to get done. It's just chugging along. Kind of chill here. It really is amazing. You can just, sit for many, many minutes, and if you have an idea of what you want done, what you're doing, then you can create some pretty cool things, much faster and much better than you would with N8N, and much easier to debug too. So just keeping on going here. Maybe I'll write these down somewhere as the ones we want to test. CD docs. Videos to test.md. We're going to use a few Evanston City Council meetings as tests. pull them. Yeah, this one, 34 minutes long. Yeah, this one, 38 minutes long. 37 minutes long. Yeah, this one, 38 minutes long. Oop, froze up a little bit. Guess just wait for it to come back to Earth. Okay, there it did. 2 hours, 20 minutes long. This one is how long was this? 2 hours. Okay. So it says that it's ready to test. So let's try it out. But I need to activate. Oh yeah. So let's set up the virtual environment. UV venv. Okay. Source.venv spin. So let's activate UV pip install R. So I'm installing the packages which are needed in the virtual environment. All right, so we'll wait a few minutes. Okay, they're installed, and now let's see what the help menu looks like. All right, so we have an error, happens sometimes, and so I'm just going to take this and like basically paste it in and tell it, hey, help me out. It looks like there's a problem with what you put together, and it should probably fix it quickly. All right, so there's some dependency we need to install still. It's going to, all right, UV pip install pydantic settings. All right, and now let's try that command again. Great, now it works. So this is what the command line tool does. You can choose version, debug, help to get this. And then there are different commands that it has. So let's keep going. As you can see here, it says context left until auto compact 2%. So I'm just gonna compact right now while I keep verifying. And let's see what else it wanted me to do. To test, yeah. So let's Python city, okay, debug, and then which here, videos to test. We have these videos that I had said that I wanted to use as tests. I'm gonna grab that one that's like 34 minutes long, and we'll see if it works. And yeah, actually, I think it's a good idea to download audio only, because we actually don't need the video. I don't need to see these boring people saying boring things, so let's do that. All right, no such command. I need to put download in front. Whoops, so oh, the debug goes before download. That's annoying. Wow, look at that. Isn't that fancy looking? Look at that. I'm so proud of all the work I did, all the sweat and tears that were put in of my people in order to get this video downloader working. Really worked hard for this. All right. The compaction has occurred. It's downloading the audio. And one change I want to make is that I want downloading audio only to be the default. So I'm going to ask it to do that. So I just tested out the video downloading capability and it seems to work, but I actually want downloading just the audio to be the default rather than something that you need to specify as an option, because like I'm not going to download the video 99% of the time because I only care about transcribing the audio. So could you adjust this? Very good. Just making some changes. All right, cool. It's done. Something that's a good habit, which I don't think we've done, is create an initial Git repository to version control what we're doing. So let me do that. Can you create a Git repo which has an initial set of commits that are logically put together for all the work that we've done so far, but make sure that the .env is excluded, that it's on a git ignore. It should not be committed. All right, so going to be initializing this Git repository so that I can share this code with you when I'm done. Yeah, very good. On the main branch, it's finding the existing .env, blah, blah, blah. All right, the Git repository is created. So let's keep going. We've tested out that this tool works. Let's check that what we had asked to have it by default get the audio works. So let me find the old command. History grep. Let's see, Python. City council download, and then where is the videos that we want to test? Okay, let's use this one again. Maybe I need quotes. All right, so it seems to have found the video is already there, and so didn't want to download it again. Let's try with a different video and make sure that it gets just the audio. Whoops. Nice. So now by default, it gets just the audio. And so I think we can move on to the next step. I confirm that the audio default functionality seems to work. And so where are we now? Let's look at tracking. Can you update phase 1 and phase 2? Because I think we've done all of that in tracking.md. Whoops, I should go here. And then could you move on to task 5 and tell me how to test it out after you've completed it? All right, looks like it completed the transcription and is now telling us how we can go about testing it. So there's an ability to estimate the cost, apparently. You can do a full transcription. So let's just try this one. Let's just ask it to do it itself. Can you test the cost estimation yourself, and then test the full transcription and the plain text output yourself. Make sure we're doing it in the virtual environment that we've created. All right, so it estimates that it'll take 20 cents to transcribe. Now let's see if the full transcription actually works. Actually, I want to do it myself. So Python transcribe output videos GFG human. All right, so now we can kind of see what the output looks like a little bit more. All right, so the file size exceeds 25 megabytes, so it split it into 4 chunks for us. This is a requirement we had, and so it's nice to see that it was able to implement it itself. Let's see if the transcription actually works now. Okay, so it looks like one of the pieces probably got implemented. I'll run it myself. You just tell me where it writes out to. Okay, so it told us where it's gonna write out to. I guess it's going to write out the whole thing, but we can, what's in metadata? Okay, so that's like the information about the video. Okay. Seems to have reached 75%. All right. So there it is. Let's take a look at this thing. All right. That's pretty cool. So we've got this all put together. Yeah, not bad. Looks decent. Looks like something that we can work with. So I think it's got like the whole text and then the individual segments all in there. Very good. It looks like it worked. I tried out the command to create a transcript.json, and it looks like it correctly created it. Could you take a look at it to see if it looks okay? And if so, could you move on to the next task? The content analysis module with the command line interface integration. And again, after you're done, update the tracking.md and also tell me how to test it out. All right, so now we'll wait for the next step. All right. Okay, it still seems to be confused about the .env file or the GPT-5 for some reason. GPT-5 is available. You're just not aware of it. It should not be set in the .env file because it's not a secret. It also seems to be setting the temperature, which GPT-5 temperature. I think I don't want this. Yeah, so there's no support for temperature in GPT-5. Let me make sure this thing is aware of it. Can you get rid of temperature settings like across the code base? I think that GPT-5 doesn't even support temperature. Good. All right, let's try the analyzer out. It should be done. I have to activate the virtual environment. All right, analyzing content with GPT-5. Let's see how this does. All right, the content automation is working. So let me just show you what it did. All right, so we ran this thing. All right, the content automation is working. Here's what it did. We fed it the transcript and it extracted 5 key points with GPT-5. So there's something called the Oasis project. Okay. Some Ordinance 15025 amendments to animal impoundment rules. And Resolution 62R25, urging bans on concealment of law enforcement identities. Full analysis seems to rank them, include some quotes, the importance of whatever it is that they did, life jacket requirement at Dempster Beach. All right, cool. Looks like it's working good enough for me. Great. I just tested it out. It looks like it works. Let's just have it go straight through. Could you go through task 7 and task 8 and then tell me how to test out task 7 on what we've already been doing and how to test out task 8 on a new video? Actually, before you get started, just so I understand how task 7 would work, it would be distinct like calls of the GPT-5 API for each article that we want written, right? I'm adding some instructions for Claude to know to use GPT-5. All right, great. So the task 7 for article generation is going to work in the same way that I expected it. Yeah, very good. Looks good. So let's just wait, and we should have the article generator working any minute now. All right, looks like the article generation and the full pipeline has been created. So I think we'll be able to test out the article generation on this same video that we've been working with, and then we can try it out on other videos as well. Can you also update the readme.md to be consistent with what we've just produced in tasks 1 through 8? If there's anything that like is not there for the user, then add it. That would be important for them to be able to use this tool properly. But if it all looks up to date, then that's fine. Just leave it be. All right, let's try it out. Again, gonna start up the virtual environment, generate. Okay. You only live once. Let's see how it does. All right, it says the README is outdated and looks like one article has been generated. Very nice. It's updating the README and that looks good. README updated. Are the outputs that we're creating get ignored, like the output directories? Council signals supports for Oasis project, a day program. City panel backs 4-day hold, more discretion with feral cats. Very good. All right. While these are generating, I'm going to go to GitHub and create a new remote repository. Okay, this is public, no template, no readme. Okay, let's create the repository. Can you push to this repository? Oops. All right. Awesome. So now it's available on GitHub with full instructions on how to use it. And let's check out. Whoops, it froze. Just wait a second. All right. We've got it created. And so last step, let's check out these articles which have been made. Now, where are they? Output, videos. Okay, so CD. Output, videos. GF. Okay, let me check out one of them. Oh, one. All right, that looks pretty good to me. I mean, I am pretty pleased with that. And then we go to O2. That looks good to me too. Okay. Last thing, give me a command to, or let's just figure it out ourselves. So Python, and then what is this thing called that we made? Python city help. Okay. Or if we go to the README here, it like tells you how to do the whole process. Yeah, just process, and let's just see if the full video works. All right, let's test out the full workflow now. Let's see how it does. Earlier, it wasn't working well when I split it into just 4 chunks, so I've reduced the size by default of each chunk, and we'll see if it no longer gets stuck. But I was noticing it just getting stuck on some percent when I had the chunks a smaller, or rather a larger size. So let's see if these smaller chunks now go straight through without problems. All right, so we see that splitting up into smaller chunks helped. Now it's getting the 5 key points for this video. They've been identified. Quotes have been extracted with some top topics, and now we'll generate 5 articles. So it's pretty sweet, huh? I'm pretty happy with this and how it turned out, to be honest. Seems like there was some error. Let's look into this. Any idea why Actually, let's compact first, and then I'll ask about that question. This seems to be a persistent problem. That is a weird error. Let's see if it's actually preventing them from showing up. It seems like there's a missing directory creation step. All right, I'm gonna try it from scratch again. All right, the transcripts have been analyzed, and now we're generating 5 articles. So let's see if it works this time. Nice. Looks like we got the first article generated. So this is the whole pipeline, end to end. You just put in a YouTube URL and you're able to get the articles generated. I'm going to go over and look at one of them. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm quite happy with this. A $500 whatever $1,000 plan to replace aging chillers, blah blah blah. So, hey, look, I'm pretty pleased with how this thing worked out. This is going to be open sourced. In the article below, you'll be able to get a link to a write-up of how this thing works, how I developed it, and the Git repository, so you can try it out yourself. Looks like that worked. And yeah, excited to keep working on other content automations. Tell me what you're interested in and what would be useful for your business. Thank you.